Hey, good morning, and how are you guys doing today? I hope amazing. So, we're back and we're going to be editing on my novel. We're revising actually, and we're doing the final revision, so it's kind of almost like a read through ish. Um, we'll be on chapter 25. This is, of course, my book, Echoes of the Cosmic Veil. And let me get my chat up and everything real quick and make sure that the stream is going well, right? And then we'll get going on editing and everything else. I do hope you guys are having a great morning. I'm having a pretty freaking awesome one. Does look like we have this up. That's always a good sign. Let me make sure we got chat up. And we do. So let's just get into this. By the way, I hope you guys are having a great morning yourselves. I'm pretty coffeeed up. I had about half of one of these, then refilled it. It's freaking freshly refilled, so it is hot as heck. Just gonna be honest. So the program I'm using is Novel Crafter. I haven't engaged the AI. I didn't need AI assistance in writing a book. I have used AI on a short story before experimentally. It was very interesting. You basically have to fix a bunch of stuff anyway. And so I wanted the experience of writing a book raw. We're almost actually done with an entire all the way through, and it will be in the hands of people that will then pick it apart, and then I will make those fixes, and it will be published within the next 30 days for sure. So, as we are concluding into the final chapters, and we are now at chapter 25 out of 27, this should be a pretty quick morning. I'm kind of excited about that. I am going to continue to hold this 5 o'clock in the morning slot. We're just going to write another book. I want a little bit of a break between the two books. So this will go to people that are going to proofread it and make sure there's not a whole bunch more mistakes than there probably are otherwise. And then I'm going to fix their stuff. Now, they're right on my tells, proofreading wise. And so, literally, the gap behind us finishing and the video where we get to talk about how the experience of writing a book on YouTube, boom, we're right that close, right? Okay, so let's get into chapter 25. Our buddy's friends dropped him on the world. He saved a tribal girl that ran off into the woods. He killed a abomination that a horror had obviously created and such. And then basically he got taken down by some tribespeople. From the construct world within the AI, I could monitor the recovery of my body, and it had access to the AI's archives. Like usual, the AI had its own recommendations of archives it pushed forward. Um, I don't. I'm going to tell you that's not usual. We haven't had that happen before here in the book. Okay, what are we wanting to say here? Let's talk about the idea, and then we'll fix it. So now the AI, now that he's down, the AI is more cooperative. Okay, I think we fixed it, guys. This is what I wanted to say. Let's double check the spacing. From the construct world within the AI, I could monitor the recovery of my body and had access to the AI's archives. The AI, seemingly taking an active interest in our survival, had its own recommendations of archives it pushed forward. Archives on judo, grappling, spear fighting, knife fighting, field expedient weaponry, wilderness survival, and escape and invasion. I took time to learn the basics of as much as I could of the training archives, but focused on grappling, spear fighting, and wilderness survival. I considered that I would likely have to grapple with one of the guards to get a spear. Then, even if I did escape, I would still have to survive in the wilderness. I knew I had been captured because the AI had acquired additional dialogue it was using to decode and translate their languages. Some of the words they used were slightly modified human dialects, but most of it sounded like gibberish at first. For the first couple of days, it seemed they were happy watching me slowly die. Then they realized I would live. And they, after the, okay, then after they realized I would live, okay. That is, then after they realized I would live. Okay. Okay. They decided to move me once they realized. Move me? They decided to move me once they realized I would live. They decided to move me once they realized I would live. I considered that I likely had been put in with other prisoners. Because the AI informed me it detected a new language, the language of the Vix. The Vix were raiders that prided themselves on combat prowess, living life based on Miyamoto Miyashi's The Book of Five Rings, an old Norse culture. The Vix had survived a nomadic space in nomadic space. Wait, the Vix had survived as nomadic space communities using powerful rune magic to hide their presence to all others, including the Horse. Okay, so instead of saying including, sorry guys, had to fix that. Okay. The Vix had survived as as nomadic space communities using powerful rune magic to hide their presence from all others. They had mastered this powerful magic during the time of the horrors, even being able to hide. Okay. Allowing. Even being able to. They had mastered this powerful magic during the time of the horrors of the horse. That would be what it would be. Allowing them to survive. For the most part, they worked as mercenaries, scavenged the rooms of once developed planets, or raided whatever they could from those they perceived as enemies. They're not as technologically advanced as the Elven Empire, corporations, or the Confederation of Planets. They had better technology than many of the alien races of the galaxy. The Victs often had well built raiding ships that were comprised of a mix of whatever they could make, trade for, or take. The Victs embraced genetic modifications and splicing, with many of them having genetic enhancements. Okay, with many of them having genetic enhancements. Some of the Victs even having modified forms, changing them to completely new creatures. The most desired form being that of a creature embodying war. Wait. The most desired forms being those of creatures whose forms embody war or embodied war. I'm not sure what I think here, guys. I'll be honest. Is it embodied war? The most desired forms being those of creatures whose forms whose image okay, I think I got this. The most desired forms being those of creatures whose image embodies war. Boom. That sounds freaking way better. My transition back to full consciousness was slow. With my body still healing, I chose to chose to lay still and learn what I could. At first, I could hear them talking about how many men they had lost, the wounded, and the concern that they had for one. Wait. This is way too long. At first, I could hear them talking about how many people they had lost and the wounded. Okay, ready? At first, I could hear them talking about how many men they had lost and the wounded. Then their concerns turned to one of their people named Shauna, who was separated after being captured with them. As I laid there listening, one of them must have gotten too close to me, because I could hear an old man with an old stern voice telling them to stay away from me, and that I was cursed. I thought, if he only knew. Okay. I regained more function and opened my eyes. It was instantly clear the Vicks were in bad shape. Many of the men were severely wounded, and their shaman was working. I think I gave them two shamans, but I'm going to have to double check as we read through this. I might have to come back here and put shamans. Was working to heal who he could. The bodies of four of their comrades, who looked to have succumbed to their wounds, lay against the wall. We were in some kind of stone cell, the light from the torch on the walls outside, casting through the metal bars. One of them, unafraid by the warning of the shaman, approached me, saying, "You seem to be healing quickly from your wounds." He was a large man and of some importance, as one of the men who was genetically modified to be a minotaur stood at his side ready to guard him from any indication of threat. I took stock of my injuries. Most of the burns were gone. The major wounds had healed, but I could feel a hunger now. The hunger was strong, and I knew it was the disease. It had helped me heal. Now it needed nutrients. I sat up and nodded yes to the man before glancing around to get a better understanding of our situation. There were 8 Vicks. One was for sure a human shaman. 3 were genetically modified to be full minotaurs. Would we stop it right there? The man who seemed to be... Yeah. The man who seemed to be the warband. This warband's Okay, the man who seemed to be this warband's leader was a partially modified human, and the other 3 full human ones. Or do look to be. Okay. There were also 10 native men who were prisoners in a cell adjacent from us. I think I kind of want to increase this, guys. But I'm pretty sure we did a pretty good countdown in the later chapters when we're killing everybody. Okay. Do you have any idea of what they planned for us? I asked. The leader of the warband came closer. My name's Magni, and they intend us for sacrifice to their blasphemous gods. The men were all fierce warriors, and I wondered how they possibly could have become captives. I asked, "How is it that you were captured? Your people are known for being excellent warriors, and this plant. Okay, I asked, "How is it you were captured? Your people are known for being excellent warriors, and this planet is primitive. They could not have taken you from your ship." Okay. The shaman came closer, insulted by the questions. We had landed to forage one of the abandoned cities from before the horrors ravaged this world, when our scouts captured a couple of their men. Using a communication rune spell, I questioned them and found out they worshipped a strange god whose idols are made of precious metals and are adorned with valuable gems. Looking to find out more, we decided to take the men back to their village. When we, when we arrived and returned their men to them, they invited us in, offering us a feast, so we agreed, hoping to learn more. It was just a trick, though. They had drugged our meals. Even drugged and ambushed, we managed to kill more than a few of them before succumbing under the sheer numbers. We woke up finding ourselves captured. We knew we had lost many of our men in battle, but even those who had survived were severely wounded. Slowly, though, comments and taunts from the guards were, oh, slowly, though, wait, slowly, not though, slowly, through comments and taunts from the guards, we figured out they intended to sacrifice us. That's a boom. Slowly, through comments and taunts from the guards, we figured out they intended to sacrifice us. Us for sacrifice. Intended us for sacrifice, us for sacrifice. Two sacrifices. I'm not sure which one I like better. They figured out they intended us for sacrifice. We figured out they intended to sacrifice us. I'm going to leave that. I had wished he had not spoken about the bodies. Oh, no, you know what? We're going to get rid of that. I don't think he gives a shit about bodies. We're not going to make it where he cares about bodies. Only live people. That's right. Fresh organs only, guys. The disease was now making me hungry with each passing moment. The AI was actively working to help me control my primal impulses caused by the disease, but without okay. Disease. Without access to a lab to create the drug, I only had part of a Milius control protocol. Okay. The sound of a large group of men could be heard coming down the corridor in our direction, instantly drawing my attention away from my hunger. Magni's voice reverberated with power, even as he spoke softly. Wait until I say before wait. Wait until I say to move before we attack. We need to relax their guard and find out where they took Shauna and any others they may have. We're just going to reduce that down to Shauna. Their only concern was Shauna. Okay. We waited calmly as around 40 tribesmen armed with spears formed up in front of the cells. The first guards opened the cells of the native prisoners, and one by one they escorted them out before binding their hands. Once they got the native prisoners lined up, they opened our cell, and with our total cooperation repeated the process. As the guards, let's fix this. As the guards lined us up, as the guards lined us up to begin moving down the corridor, I made sure I'd be able to break the primitive rope bindings. Hold on one second. Let me fix this. So this wasn't like a read through this morning. There was actual work to be done. I'm gonna just have to say I was kind of hoping it was like yesterday, where like everything was super easy, but whatever. This was a little bit not as easy. Okay, as the guards lined us up, to begin moving down the corridor, I made sure I would be able to break the primitive ropes binding my hands. I'm looking over it. I'm going to drink another drink of coffee. I'm going to read back through that last paragraph real quick. The disease was now making me hungry with each passing. Hungrier. Hunger. The disease was now making me hunger with each passing moment. Okay, the disease was now making me hunger for flesh with each passing moment. The AI was actively working to help me control the primal impulses caused by the disease. Without access to a lab to create the drug, I only had part of Amelia's control protocol. The sound of a large group of men. Okay. Okay. I feared my ability to control myself. Without access to a lab to create the drug, I only had part of Amelia's control protocol. The sound of a large group of men could be heard coming down the corridor in our direction, instantly drawing my attention away from my hunger. Magni's voice reverberated with power, even as he spoke softly. Wait until I say to move before we attack. We need to relax their guard and find out where they took Shauna. We waited calmly as around 40 tribesmen armed with spears formed up in front of the cells. The first guards opened the cell of the native prisoners, and one by one they escorted them out before binding their hands. Once they got the native prisoners lined up, they opened our cells, and with our total cooperation repeated the process. As the guards lined us up to begin moving down the corridor, I made sure I was able to break the primitive ropes binding my hands. So I'm okay with that. That sounds pretty good. So we have 2 more days of this before it's in other people's hands. It will drastically change. Not drastically. There will be changes. There will be improvements. Obviously, other people's inputs, the proofreading process, and stuff like that is going to actually improve the story. I don't think I'm going to show the final form. We will go all the way through this on this revision. I will make sure that we stream the publishing, and I will continue to keep this whole 5 a.m. slot, and we'll figure out other stuff. We're going to write another book later on, but I'm probably going to take at least 1 week for a break before, as we get this published, before we just start another book, just so you guys know. I do want to thank you guys for hanging out this morning. Obviously, we have 2 more chapters of this book. This is book 1 in a series. I do plan on doing a book 2 later. I'm going to have a slight break between the two books, though, and we'll BS about that later on. Outside of that, thank you guys for just being awesome, hanging out and supporting my channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. You guys have a great day.